Hi, my name's Lauren from Lauren's Cravings over on Instagram. Today's video is going to be about 10 ways to induce quick and natural labour. So for a bit of background, I actually had my first contraction on my due date at 10 to midnight and I gave birth the next day at 20 past 8 in the morning. So my total labour time from first contractions, my water broke, mucus plug went and gave birth was just over 8 hours. There's a couple of things from this list that I did use. So I'd say about 50%, 5 out of the 10 were things that I did do. So I will, as I walk through them, tell you what it was that I done. The others are ones that are popularly mentioned as being effective, and I will give you the reasons why, and I'll potentially speak to you about why I didn't choose to do those things. Of the 10, there is one specifically that I do not think is mentioned enough, and we'll get on to that I do think was critical. And you're going to laugh when I tell you about it, because it's like one of my top tips from previous videos, like using Vibrato when you're doing a perineal massage, that I don't think is mentioned enough, is really easy, also very enjoyable, and probably, I believe, lent towards me giving birth 8 hours after my due date. So stay tuned and I'll walk you through them. So the first one is eating dates from approximately 4 weeks prior to your due date. There was a study done on this, and apparently it did show that it quickened the first stage of labour and it meant that the cervix was softer, which could encourage your midwife to be able to do a sweep if you still aren't contracting by that stage, by your term. So totally up to you. I personally didn't do it just because I would have found it quite difficult. I think it's about 6 to 8 dates a day. Different sources cite different things, but it's meant to be module dates, so it's quite large dates. And the only way I'm really going to eat that many dates and enjoy it is in a sticky date pudding. So I was already eating a fair amount. I wasn't probably willing to include that many more dates, the additional calories on top of all the extra calories that I was already consuming. And something that I didn't enjoy in latter stages of pregnancy when I was already feeling quite uncomfortable. If you enjoy dates and you like eating them, to be fair, I could have paired them with cheese, but I digress. I didn't do it, and I did go into labour on my due date. My friend, who religiously ate 6 to 8 dates every day from about 34 weeks, went overdue and ended up being induced a week and a half after her due date. So just goes to show. Totally up to you on that one, but I didn't. Number 2 is a herbal remedy, which is drinking raspberry leaf tea. Now, I am not a fan of herbal tea at the best of times, which is why I did not do this one either. The reasoning behind this one is that it's meant to help tone your uterine muscles, which obviously are what is contracting to get your baby out. So that is what they say it helps towards. You're meant to start it on like 1 cup a day, building up to maybe 3 cups a day in the latter stages of pregnancy. I personally didn't do it, and again, did me no harm. If you enjoy your herbal teas, build it in. There is apparently no evidence to support that this was a natural inducement of labour, but enough people do it, so it might just be that there's been no studies done on it specifically. Third one, I did do actually, because it is one of my favourite fruits, which is eat pineapple. Fun fact, I was actually eating pineapple in early stages of pregnancy, and my mum came across a study that said that we shouldn't do it for the reasons I'm about to give you about inducement of labour. So I had to give up pineapple for a period of time because I was eating quite a wee bit of pineapple because it is one of my favourite fruits and you're not meant to. So that's put a pause on the pineapple early on. And if you want to induce a natural and quick labour, it is meant to help because it contains an enzyme called bromelain, which breaks down proteins in tissue and may soften the cervix or encourage it to loosen. So that is one of the ones I did start building in. I started eating pineapple probably again I think it was about 38 weeks pregnant, and I was eating it a couple of days, every day or two. And I do eat like a half pineapple at a time. So that was something that I built in. That is the first of the 10 that I am saying I done was eat pineapple. And come on, that is one of the enjoyable ones. I suppose it's perspective though, isn't it? Some of you might like raspberry tea. I'm just all about the pineapple. The fourth one is eating spicy foods. Now, there isn't concrete evidence on this one. The interesting bit that I came across when I was reading up on it is similar to women that drink castor oil to induce labour, is spicy food really just serves to irritate your intestines, which can cause cramping and uterine contracting, which is meant to encourage labour and contractions that way. No evidence to support the theory that it can induce labour, but if you like a good curry, there's no harm in trying, is there? Number 5 is nipple stimulation. So for a reason being that it produces oxytocin in you when you stimulate your nipples, which is the feel-good happy hormone, which is the hormone that you need to go into labour, nipple stimulation is encouraged. I was doing it because I was harvesting colostrum from about 36-37 weeks. So they say generally wait till your full term, which is 37 weeks. They say the same for colostrum harvesting, generally safe really only from 36-37 weeks. And if you have a history of preterm labour, then they discourage it really just in case there is any kind of, linkage between nipple stimulation and inducement of early labour. So when you stimulate your nipples, you produce oxytocin, which is the feel-good happy hormone. And that is what you need critically above all else to bring on labour. That is the hormone that you release when you are in labour. That is what gets your body through that. I think when I was doing my course, the hypnobirthing course with Lindsay, Born This Way Hypnobirthing, she spoke about how adrenaline is like the enemy to oxytocin. You need that feel-good hormone to have your body optimally working. If you feel panicked, if you're not informed, anything else, adrenaline can just douse that, and that's what can stall your labour, which is why the more informed you are, the better versed you are in what the processes are and what is happening to you, the better. Because you know what's meant to be happening and you're comfortable with that, even if it is a bit uncomfortable, and you go with the flow and you just ride those waves quite literally. And that is backed up by scientific research. So oxytocin is the real main thing we're going for here. And when we get to the item that I said we're going to be looking out for, you'll see why I think this is totally underestimated and should be shouted from the rooftops. Number 6, which I also did do, is walking. So just the simple act of walking can help to allow the baby to drop down into your pelvis. Just with the simple act of moving your hips and the swaying. Pelvic alignment's a big thing for going into labour, so ideally you want to be looking up pelvic alignment just to make sure that everything's kind of tickety-boo. I done some exercises to ensure pelvic alignment. I went to an osteopath prior to labour as well, just to make sure everything was all right and where it should be. If the pelvis is out of alignment, it can cause the baby to stall at some parts through the birth canal. So curb walking is something that's encouraged, because if you curb walk, so basically one leg up in the curb and one leg, foot on the ground, basically walking up like that, it helps to align your pelvis. Just have a wee Google about pelvic alignment and various exercises that you can do, and try to build that into your daily routine before you give birth. Just basically from about 37 weeks. So again, from when you hit term before your due date, try to build in some pelvic exercises to ensure optimum alignment. Just wanting to mention at this point, you should look into various positions for when you are giving birth. Typically what you see in movies where women are giving birth on their back is actually not the most effective way to give birth. You can give birth in the latter stages of labour on your back once the baby has moved down through the birth canal already. But if you are sitting, like lying on your back, basically your tailbone's tucked in, it's called, so look it up, rhombus Michaelis. Basically the back of your lower back actually arches up, and if you're lying on your back, it kind of constricts that from happening. So you're actually restricting the space your baby has to come down through your pelvis. I personally gave birth on my hands and knees, so on all fours. Walking, which is why I've tagged it onto the end of this item, is also great for quickening labour. So if you've been feeling labour contractions, if you do walking, it actually helps the baby drop. And just that natural, gravity comes into play, guys, here. So even when I was in the delivery suite, they actually made me get up at one point and stand up and by God, that was an intense feeling. Actually, like spider monkeyed back up onto the bed because I think the baby would have come shooting out if I'd stood there. If I was a braver person, I'd probably have stayed on my feet. But there is a reason that actually getting you to get up and stand and walk about can quicken things. So walking is a good thing to be doing. Number 7 is using your exercise ball, so your yoga ball, and you've probably heard a lot of people talking about this. If they say they're bouncing on their ball, it's not what you're really wanting to do. You're not wanting to bounce on the ball. You're wanting to make figure 8s on the ball. So you're wanting to sit, legs shoulder width apart, and basically make figure 8s with your body. And again, this is about pelvic alignment. So I just spent probably the last 2 weeks before my due date sitting on the ball when I was watching TV, making figure 8. So that is something that I did do. I was big on ensuring my pelvis was aligned because I was really quite determined on a natural vaginal delivery. So I wanted to make sure that I was giving my body and my baby every possible chance to deliver that baby vaginally, with little kind of input. So ideally I didn't really want pain relief, so I ended up obviously only using my TENS machine and gas and air. And to ensure that happened quickly and to ensure it was a quick labour, I wanted to make sure my pelvis was as good as it could have been, hence why I went to the osteopath and done my figure 8s. So figure 8s don't bounce. It's doing nothing. Well, it's not doing nothing, but your figure 8s are better. Number 8 is an essential oil that was quoted to me. So if I had went overdue, it was in my Amazon basket ready to be purchased. So although I can't say whether it worked or not, I would have bought it if I'd went another few days over my due date. And that is clary sage oil. So clary sage oil, it helps stimulate contractions or surges, which are very useful to induce labour, especially following a membrane sweep. So I personally wasn't going to get a membrane sweep, just my opinion, my decision, because I didn't want to accidentally have my waters broken or anything like that. So I would have used it and just probably used it in a bath. It's quite a sedating effect, which potentially has a positive impact on reducing your adrenaline. Remember I was talking about adrenaline being the douser of your oxytocin, and therefore aids oxytocin production. There is anecdotal evidence to suggest that it promotes heavier bleeding of girls that are on their period, and I've been told by others that if you are to use clary sage, or you were going to use it during your labour, say for example you're going to have a home birth, you need to pre-warn midwives or anybody that's going to be in and around the vicinity, because it can induce early labour. So say you had a midwife that was early stages of pregnancy, there has been anecdotal evidence to say that it could promote a miscarriage, for example, so please be careful. We're now getting on to the good stuff, so 9 and 10. Now 9 is something that I see quoted all of the time, which is have sex, because sperm contains a hormone-like substance called prostaglandin, which is used in synthetic form to induce labour. So when you are synthetically induced, i.e. using hormone drips and whatnot, that hormone-like substance is used. Hence why they say have sex, and if your partner, husband, boyfriend, whatever, comes inside you, that can help soften your cervix and help dilate and help promote and induce labour. Good, cool, okay. I was doing that, fine. As we all know though, it can be quite uncomfortable to have sex in the latter stages of pregnancy. And even when you do, I'll be honest, the normal positions that worked for me in that way weren't really working. So I was not able to make myself orgasm very easily through sex with my husband at that point. So we did do it for the purposes of number 9. But we'll get on to number 10 next, and I'll explain why that is my favourite item that I think should be promoted way over and above number 9 in every scenario. Drum roll, please. Orgasms. Number 10, the big O for you. Okay, so self-pleasure, getting yourself in a room with, said vibrator that I mentioned earlier on in the video. Orgasms produce oxytocin. And what is the hormone that you need for labour? Oxytocin. I'm getting really quite open and honest with you guys in some of these YouTube videos, and it's something that I probably would not ever do in my Instagram because there is that many people. So at least I know if you've made it this far, it's because you really are interested in knowing how to induce an early and quick labour. I credit this with a big part of why I actually went into labour on time. So the figure 8's on the ball, I was eating my pineapple, I was occasionally having spicy food, I was walking, but I was probably self-pleasuring every day or two, no lie. So I finished with work 2 weeks before my due date, so about 38 weeks. Joys of working from home though, even before that I would say. So I'd say from about 36 weeks, I made a point, and this was purely based on my understanding of oxytocin and the fact I wasn't really able to get off when I was actually having sex. So I was pairing it up with when I was doing my perineal massage. So in previous videos, I have mentioned about how perineal massage stopped me tearing between my vagina and my bum hole. And when you are a lot bigger in latter stages of pregnancy, you find it difficult to reach. So you use your vibrator. So lubing that baby up, using your vibrator. Obviously it's not switched on when you're doing your perineal massage because you're trying to stretch your perineum. Once that was done, I was switching it on and continuing on the party to produce the oxytocin. And I think that helped. I will be doing that again. Not that I have as much time, I'll be honest, right now with a baby. So I am concerned that if I am pregnant and I have what might be a toddler at that point, it might be difficult, but I will be prioritising that. I will, I've decided. Because as much as I love pineapple, who doesn't love an orgasm? So eat your pineapple, eat your spicy food, go your walks, and then self-pleasure yourself when you come home, or get your husband to do it. If you're getting help with the perineal massage, whatever you fancy, I would just promote orgasms. Orgasms, because oxytocin, it actually also, what was I going to say? It can trigger uterine contractions. So if you think about what happens when you orgasm, you feel the contractions, yes? How is that not going to be useful? How is that not going to be useful? So I was doing that right up pretty much until my due date, and then obviously my first contraction was on my due date, and I will credit that because it was an enjoyable thing to do, and I think everybody should do it. So yeah, that's me, number 10. Let me know if you agree. Let me know if you do it and you go into labour on time. I would be extremely interested. All the reading that I've done, all the sources that I have looked at promote the guy getting off, so the guy coming, which I think is hilarious when actually it's about the woman. Now, why in a world whereby we talk about, equal rights and whatnot, and it's all about our experience, are we still promoting that the guy gets off and we're not really talking about the girl? I just think that was ridiculous. I actually fed that back just recently when I spoke to my hypnobirthing teacher about doing this video. I was like, why do they always talk about the men? It's always about the men. Sack the men, focus on yourself. So that is my top 10 ways to induce quick and easy labour. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you do end up using something, or if there's something that I've mentioned that you didn't think of or you disagree or agree with, I would be interested in hearing it in the comments. Obviously, if you don't want to, reference the number 10, just mention number 10 and I'll know what you mean, because we might not want to get into details on the comments on a public forum. Totally up to you. If you've got this far, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch. And if you are still to get into labour, i.e. you are still pregnant, congratulations. And I hope that you get the birth that you hope for, and I hope your baby arrives safe and healthy. Like and subscribe if you could, and as always, as I said, I appreciate a comment just to kind of generate the engagement and show that these are worth it to you. So thank you so much, guys, and I will speak to you later. Bye.